Welcome back to our channel, and in today's video, we will show you the top 10 biggest scammers who fooled the world. How do you sell a famous landmark or even sell air? Well, keep watching this video for the boldest, most genius plan for this con artist that pulled it off. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon to be notified whenever we post a new video. Okay, let's dive in. Number 10 is Gregory McGregor. Investing an entire country is by far the most ambitious con the world has ever seen. Kicking off on our list, we have the Scottish soldier, Gregory McGregor, who convinced hundreds of British and French investors to buy shares in his new country, Poitiers. He claimed that he and his wife ruled as cacique of this territory that was given to them by King George Frederick Augustus of the Mosquito Coast in the Gulf of Honduras. To us, it's pretty amusing to think that he even published a 350-page guidebook to Poitiers, but the investors who he stole £200,000 from thought otherwise. The worst thing about this brazen plan is that once he gathered all the people to become citizens of his new country, they're even encouraged to trade their Scottish currency for Bank Poitiers notes, which he printed about 70,000 of. The others, 150 men, women, and children, arrived at the uninhabited shore. But despite all this, McGregor was never caught and never faced any legal consequences. Number 9 is Aurora Florentina Magnuson. Aurora Florentina Magnuson made the world believe that she was a princess. Here's the story of how a Swedish orphan girl conned the world into believing that she was of royal blood. In the middle of the 19th century, Aurora Florentina Magnuson came out to claim that he was Helga de la Broche, the secret daughter of King Gustav IV of Sweden and the Queen of Baden. She went as far as concocting a tale of divorcing royal couples, leaving her to live with another royal, her aunt, Princess Sofia Albertine of Sweden. Aurora also dramatically claimed that after her aunt Sofia died, she was forced into asylum, followed by a bold escape. Aurora demanded the royal pension from Sweden. However, a trial proved her tale to be all lies, but she never went to jail. Number 8 is George C. Parker. Among the boldest con artists in history is George C. Parker, also known as the man who legit tried to sell the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, where to even begin with George C. Parker's cons? He forged documents that allowed him to trick tourists into believing that he was actually selling them historic city landmarks. He tried to sell the original Madison Square Garden, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Statue of Liberty, Grant's Tomb, and he sold the Brooklyn Bridge twice a week for several years. Parker also sold shows and plays, which of course he didn't own or write, and you'd think with all of these devious schemes, he'd be caught sooner. But in 1908, after being convicted, he simply walked out of the courthouse wearing a sheriff's hat and coat. In the end, he received a life sentence in 1928 and died at the Sing Sing prison in upstate New York, but his bold legacy is something to be remembered. Number 7 is Joseph Weil. Following up on that, we have Joseph Yellow Kid Weil, who is known to be the one who tricked an Italian dictator, Benito Mussolini. So it's safe to say that he's one of our most notorious con men in US history. Over his nefarious career, he stole over $8 million. His unethical behavior started at the age of 17 when he noticed his town's loan sharks keeping some of the profits. Weil then blackmailed them into giving him a portion of the profits in return for his silence. He would make history under the tutelage of Chicago's conman, Doc Merriweather, and he would sell Doc Merriweather's elixir, which was a sham whose main ingredient was rainwater. Weil's cons also included scamming $2 million from Mussolini, selling talking dogs, and selling oil-rich lands. Number 6 is Frank Abagnale Jr. Frank Abagnale Jr. single-handedly conned people into thinking that he was a pilot, a physician, US Bureau of Prisons agent, and a lawyer. Oh, he also conned his way out of prison. All of this between the ages of 16 to 21. You can watch the fascinating life of Frank Abagnale Jr. in the movie Catch Me If You Can, as he's played by Leonardo DiCaprio. This was probably the most ambitious con, but another one included him impersonating the chief resident pediatric at a Georgia hospital. After being caught, he walked out of prison by making the guards believe he was an undercover agent. In the end, he served 5 years in prison and was released on parole in exchange for helping out the FBI. Number 5 is Eduardo DelVecchio. We have con artists who sold the Brooklyn Bridge, con artists who created fictional countries, but how about the one who stole the Mona Lisa? The Mona Lisa is arguably the most well-guarded work of art in existence, but it was stolen by this mystery of a man in 1911. He didn't even do the dirty work himself. He convinced an employee of the Louvre to walk out with the masterpiece under his coat. And that's not it. Now that it was known that someone had stolen Leonardo da Vinci's greatest work, bidders were illegally flocking to buy the painting, all thinking that it had been stolen for them. The ingenious Valfierno created 6 fake copies which he sold to the buyers. The man he hired to steal the original painting, named Perugio, was the one who was eventually caught, where he was caught trying to steal the real painting, and the Mona Lisa was safely returned in the Louvre Hall in 1913. None of the forgeries were ever found. And on the number 4th spot was Soapy Smith. Jefferson Randolph Smith earned the nickname Soapy because of his prize packaged soap sell racket that he ran. Take a look at this scam. Soapy Smith would stand at a street corner with huge piles of soap cakes. He would wrap banknotes which ranged from $1 to $100 around the soap, then cover everything up in brown paper. When the crowds were lured by the promise of earning $100 at the price of 1, Smith would actually hide the soap bars containing the $100 and give them the cheaper ones. This escalated beyond soap cakes, and Smith eventually ran organized crime in Colorado and Alaska. Number 3 is CL Blood. Selling oxygenized air sounds like a scam to us, but CL Blood gained millions from it. He was a self-described doctor who sold his patented product of oxygenized air, which he claimed to be a cure for diseases related to throat and lungs. Blood was also indulged in cases of blackmail, tax evasions, and the murder of a Boston fruit seller. The strangest thing is that to this day, no one really knows the real name of CL Blood, only his elusive crimes. Coming in at number 2 on our list of con artists who have fooled the world is Charles Ponzi, aka the man who scammed millions and millions of dollars and left a mark bearing his name in the world. Originally from Italy, Ponzi arrived in the US in 1903, but his scheming ways didn't start until 1919 when he created Securities Exchange Co., which offered insane and unrealistic profits to investors who fell for it. Of course, the money they were investing in just went to Ponzi's pockets, but the Ponzi scheme didn't last long. In 1920, he was charged with 86 counts of fraud, but he boldly only pleaded guilty to 1. Number 1 is Victor Lustig. We placed Lustig on the top because of how bold he was. Check out his audacity. If you don't recognize his name, then you may have heard of the man who sold the Eiffel Tower twice. In the year 1925, Lustig decked out his best suit and charming smile, convinced businessmen and French scrap metal dealers that we used the official Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs, and told them that due to the Eiffel Tower requiring too much money for maintenance, it was to be dismantled, and thus in the beginning of a bidding war over who got to own the Eiffel Tower. The highest bidder of the day was André Poisson, who when this unlucky fellow discovered that he was being conned, he was too ashamed to report the incident. Eventually, Lustig was caught after trying his tricks in the US and was sentenced to 20 years in the infamous prison of Alcatraz. And that's a wrap for the top 10 con artists who fool the world. And now that we got that out of the way, we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.